we've seen another phenomena happen in our market, COVID. COVID actually is changing the mindset of the security people that are buying products. They are now always, and again, I'll say it, cloud. Cloud has been around for what, 5-10 years? And everyone's, everything's going to cloud, everything's going, everyone's not going to be on premise and all that. What have we seen? It hasn't happened at all. You have cloud companies coming up and dying. And you're saying, why isn't the people going to cloud? Guess what? COVID is going to push everyone to change the way they do business with security and really move over from on-premise to off-premise.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Security VIP Podcast, the official podcast of the security industry and home of nothing but the truth. As always, I am your host, Taylor May. And on today's episode, we are sitting down with one of the premier camera manufacturers in the industry. As a global leader in the video surveillance space, Hanwha Techwin is known for their world-class product line because of the high performance, high resolution, and high reliability that continues to deliver year after year. And as a company that strives to become the world's best total security solutions provider, it is my pleasure to welcome and introduce the Senior Vice President of Sales for North America, Mr. Tom Cook, to the Security VIP Podcast today. Tom, how are we doing today, man?
Good. Well, thank you for having me, Taylor. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you, Tom, and I've heard great things about Hanwha, obviously a huge leader in our space, man, so I'm very excited to have you on. But before we kind of go based on Hanwha, let's talk about your experience, man. Tell us your background, your experience, and kind of what you bring to the industry.
I've been in the industry a while. I actually came up as a electrical design software engineer, electrical engineer. Wrote a lot of code, worked for a company called Molzer, which was huge in banking, kind of like the Diebold's and things like that years ago, and got into the electronic security in there. Had a passion for it, but I had a passion not sitting in a cubicle every day of my life. And I saw the guys in sales and marketing, and I knew it's kind of what I wanted. And moved over, had an opportunity to move to Panasonic back in 93. And it was a great opportunity, company that had great product, great quality, great vision. And we brought it to number 2 back then against Pelco. And but then things got a little crazy, and I felt the company was going the wrong direction. But anyway, moved over to a company named Vicon, ran their sales team, and took a company from in the red, 33 million up to 70 million in 5 years. And that's when I ended up going to Samsung, recruited hard for this job here, and same situation. They were floundering. I had a great brand, but didn't have identity, didn't have a lane. And I think we've done a real good job of changing that environment over the last 8 years I've been here.
Great to hear your experience, Tom, and it sounds like your track record kind of speaks for itself, man. You've gone from, all these different companies, but you've built these companies from pretty much, kind of the middle of the pack to now high-performing teams, which I definitely appreciate. So, also, Tom's he's from Jersey, and I just learned that he's a Giants fan, and he's not feeling too hot about these, last couple of weeks with the Giants, and I'm not feeling too hot about the Cowboys myself because we barely scraped away at the victory last weekend. But it's always good to meet another huge football fan such as Tom. So Tom, definitely appreciate that, brother. So let's go on about that, man. You've been with Hanwha almost 9 years now, so you've probably seen this company evolve, but kind of just give us a level set about the company and what it's all about.
So the company was a division or a public company within Samsung when I came on board. A lot of people thought we were Samsung Electronics. You'd go into an experience and a sales meeting, and it's like, oh, I love your phone, I love your TVs, all that. I have one, and what do you got for cameras? And it was an easy sell, quite honestly. I wonder why Samsung was not as strong as it should have been when I first got there. And that was the mentality, is like, Samsung's going to be here forever and all that. And I would call Samsung what I term a fast follower. They were very good at developing product after it hit the market. And then in 2016, shockingly, Samsung was in financial trouble for many reasons, and I'm not going to get into that. But overall, they sold 4 business companies outside their consumer business for $10 billion to Hanwha. And Hanwha is not known worldwide because it's a B2B company. There is no consumer divisions or anything like that, but they're the 8th largest company in South Korea. They do about 63 billion worldwide, about 240 on the top 500 global. So it's a big company. I never heard of them. You never heard of them. And they came into this industry. And it was a challenge to basically understand where our branding was going to be and change and things like that. So Hanwha, I would say what was surprising, they had a great interest in the security business globally. And they started asking great questions about what do you need to be successful? And we really came down to, we need innovative products, something that the market didn't have. And we have been very fortunate to have a company understanding to come out with new product, innovative product that the market has not seen, and really start becoming the leader in the market in product and things like that. The brand obviously was a challenge. You're going from a top 8 brand in the world as Samsung throughout the world, and going to Hanwha, which basically was unknown outside of Korea or Asia. We felt very strong, and I led the argument internally that the product eventually, if we were going to move over from Samsung to Hanwha, we should name the product something else. And we came up with the name WiseNet, which was the base of our chipset, which is really our strength. And how we message to the market is we design our own SoC chips for the cameras. And that was a WiseNet brand. And we took that and brought it out to the brand of the cameras and the other products. And that made a big difference because, honestly, Hanwha sounds like a Chinese company, and we've had that struggle throughout our marketing branding, but we've done a great job of explaining to the world that we are a South Korean company. I think that means a lot to a lot of people. It's a favored nation. We have a great trade agreement with the USA, and but the name, from an end user who doesn't know us, would think, oh, is that Chinese? I don't want to deal with them. So we've done a great job by converting that over and using our innovation. And it's really propelled us in a whole different level in the security industry now.
Yeah, and anytime you see, camera manufacturers that, let's say GSX, as is ISC, the big, trade shows in our industry, there's always 2 manufacturers that really stick out to you at these shows, guys. And it's always Hanwha and it's always Axis, because they got the biggest, largest, booths at the shows. But what really impresses me about Hanwha, just kind of what, Tom said, they were pretty much, I wouldn't say a nobody, but just not really well known, back when Tom joined the company, which is why they hired Tom to kind of bring that caliber, that force into the North American sales team. So, now they're seen in every kind of vertical you can think of, guys. With my experience at AnyVision, I see Hanwha all the time here in Texas and Oklahoma and Louisiana, but all different spread throughout different kind of verticals. So gaming, healthcare, education, it's a large footprint. And bringing on that WiseNet name now is a very smart move too by Hanwha, because just to Tom's point, some people have some issues with Chinese companies, which is totally understandable. So kind of rebranding that name kind of helps kind of streamline that whole process when it comes to getting a sale and forming that relationship. So Tom, talk about kind of your first day on the job, man. You've been with the company for almost 9 years now. What's kind of the biggest evolution or biggest change you've seen from day one to current day to day?
Well, I think the mentality and the process is it was basically the Wild West when I first got there. I think there was no structure. They didn't have a dealer program. They didn't have attention to the creating demand. And we pride ourselves in going to the market very differently than most manufacturers. We have a hybrid sales force, so we have half manufacturer reps and half direct sales guys, and that makes a big difference on how we attack the market, because we don't attack SIs, we manage SIs with our manufacturer reps and distribution, and we attack end users and consultants. And we have a tremendous consulting program established and multiple consulting managers throughout the North America that support that 100%, but everyone in the company supports the consulting program. Part of what we do is, we fly, again, not this year, but years past, we've flown on our dime consultants into GSX and ISC, about 50 each, and had a Hanwha day the day before. Worked through very successful programs that we've done, and we've done them across the country also. The mentality now is structured. We have a dealer program. We sell 100% through distribution, and when we go to market, we go strong at the person. As I always talk and message to my sales team, find a person who's in control of the money, who writes the check, whether it's the CFO, the IT director, security director, who has the power to say yes, not the power to say no. There's many people on the chain that can say no to you, and you can't get through that gatekeeper possibly, but the person who can say yes, that's the person we need to have them understand who Hanwha is and what our values are and what we bring to the table. And if you don't get to that person, two things will happen. One, you're not going to win the opportunity. Two, you're going to fight on price. And we don't want to sit there and just lower our price or sell the lowest price item we have in our price list. It's not a good message.
I love to hear the tenacity, man, the passion in Tom's voice right there, because that's what it's all about, guys. And to his credit, man, there's only a couple. Honestly, I think it's just Axis and Hanwha who lead the market in the camera game. You've got the other ones in the market. I don't want to put anyone on the spotlight, but what their caliber product line they have, guys, is pretty much second to none. It's kind of competing here and there. And I have to give a shout out to my boy Luke down in Houston, because Luke hooked me up with some cool cameras. So Luke, thank you so much for the cameras, man. I demoed them now here at AnyVision. But let's talk about the product line, Tom. Let's talk about the one of my favorite things with you guys with the WiseNet product line is the Extreme WDR. And I can't tell you how crucial that is for an analytics company when you talk about, exterior lighting, certain kind of, environmental conditions, right? So talk about some of the, not only the Extreme WDR, but what's also special about the product line when it comes to WiseNet brand. What's that about?
Yeah. So again, the way consistency is the most important thing in how we make our sales people approach the market. And again, we just had a full day, brutal day yesterday on about 10 new salespeople that we hired before March or at March this year, and doing presentations. And again, what we do is we focus, we want them to understand, we know how to be successful, we know how to make them successful, and we teach them what to focus on. One of the primary things we do is we present all our product in our VMS, which is Wave. And we've approached our market. We were a camera manufacturer for many years, and now we're a full solution manufacturer. And I think from a video standpoint, that puts us in a whole another game that a lot of people are seeing Hanwha as not just a camera manufacturer. Granted, we sell, I think, the best cameras on the market, and the reason for that is we develop our own system on a chip, or SoC, which, as I mentioned before, was our WiseNet name that we got. And we just released WiseNet 7 chipset product. September 1st, our first products that came out, all 4K cameras using the WiseNet 7 chip, which is our 5th generation chip since 2010. And we've been fortunate enough that the company is investing millions of dollars to make a wafer. They actually stamp them out at Samsung Semiconductor right there in Austin, which is kind of cool because, it starts in Korea, goes to America, shoots back to Korea. And we have a great partnership with Samsung. We do all their buildings and things like that. But more importantly is coming out with features that are only exclusive to our WiseNet line. So you won't see this feature in any other products. And I think that's critical. You mentioned extreme wide dynamic range. it's a new format of wide dynamic range, and everyone's played with wide dynamic range. Axis calls it forensic, and other people call it different names, and it gives a tagline. But extreme wide dynamic range is moving away from pixel, looking at different. The lens aperture opens up slow, medium, high, things like that. And you take different samples and you kind of zipper them in together and you formulate a picture. And that's basically how wide dynamic range has been done over years. And it's been great, but it's not good enough, not equal to the naked eye. Extreme wide dynamic range is taking it by contrasting. They're looking at pixel by pixel, line by line, instead of just looking at different aperture settings and openings and zippering the thing. They're now taking that and then overdeveloping it by pixel, line by line, looking at everything comparatively to each one next to each other. So you're seeing it get more detail, a greater light and dark exposures are hitting each other, and we're blending that together to make a beautiful picture.
Love to hear that, and especially when it comes to AI, all these analytics, having WDR and HDR and all these certain, pixels per frame, et cetera, pixel density, it really comes into entail when it comes to talk about WDR, guys, because if you're trying to pick up faces, you're trying to pick up objects, weapons, whatever it may be, that WDR is crucial almost when we talk about situational surveillance cameras and kind of the exterior cameras that are maybe 25 feet high in the ceiling or what have you, right? So that's what I really like about the product line. Just because I've seen it used with my software and a couple other analytic companies, and it works very, very well. So, before we go on to my next question, you hinted on the chipset, and this is a question I had anyway. And let's talk about that because everything, you've seen the industry go from analog to IP to now everything's on the edge. So talk about these new chipsets that you guys are coming out with, or, these new edge cameras. What's kind of the development process with your team? What has that been looking like?
So they basically start when they start on a new chipset after they release the chipset. So it's about a 2 to 3 year development. Our last one was released January of 2017. We just released, that was WiseNet 5. We released WiseNet 7 product in September of 2020. So that's the time frame that we see a progression of a chip to another chipset. I think WiseNet 3 that came out in April 2013 was really stamping our first time of what we had in a market that was very different. We leapfrogged the industry. We were the first ones to come out with a 60 frame camera that we could take wide dynamic range, because if you're taking one exposure to the next, you're actually limiting your frames. So it would drop down from normally 30 to 15, but our 60 would drop down to 30. So we always had a large advantage there. Now we have cameras that are doing 120 frames, but we're zippering that effect down to 30 or 60 or whatever. But we're getting more frames per second on those cameras because of the strength of the chip. The chip, this chip, they focus due to the popularity and the trends. They focus on cybersecurity. So although the camera itself is going from 2 meg and 5 meg on the WiseNet 5 line, it's now going. We're releasing product 2 meg, 4 meg, 6 meg, and 4K, and then ultimately it'll be a 32 meg camera come out with WiseNet 7. So you'll have a breadth of different megapixels throughout that line. But more importantly, with all the camera features that we want them to focus on, low light, wide dynamic, extreme, different things like that, they focus on cybersecurity. So the chip has the ability to do a secure boot, lock down the JR, UART, different programs in there. So it is an anti-hack capability throughout. Probably the most important thing, we were the first manufacturer to get UL CAP, which is UL's next version that they released in 2018, which is their Cyber Assurance Program, CAP. So when you get UL, obviously it's a UL rating and you go through all the process of normal, and we've been doing that for all our products. But UL CAP certifies you on a cyber end of what they've gone through the process. So all the WiseNet 7 products that we released in September and throughout, going October and so on, will have a UL CAP certification, which we're very proud of from a company standpoint, that we took that next initiative and lead the industry on products that are have the top cyber security in it.
And Tom, I've got to imagine, man, that's probably a huge competitive advantage for you guys, at the company. You know, I mean, it's crazy, man. I mean, you've been in the industry for so long. Remember the days of analog, and now here we are with chipsets and edge computing, and just it's crazy, man. So that's got to be a huge advantage, I think, for the Hanwha team. And thank you for bringing that up, because I think that's it's an added selling point, just from my perspective, from an outside lens too. So thank you for that. But let's talk about some of these verticals, man. I highlighted it earlier. You guys have, seen all sorts of verticals you guys kind of play and tail with, education, gaming, healthcare, you name it. But let's talk about some of the, I guess, the biggest verticals you guys are known for. What's, before COVID-19, what's kind of been that hot vertical? Maybe after COVID-19, have you seen that vertical kind of shift, change? What's kind of been the top focus right now?
So definitely the two largest verticals that we hit and are very successful on is school districts, K through 12, and retail. And we've been very successful winning major accounts. And then retail, we kind of put banking with retail together because they're very similar in scope and what the products are needed. We've been very successful winning major clients in all of them, from Bank of America, Wells Fargo, nationwide, worldwide. And then big accounts like Target, Best Buy, CVS, TJX. And these are great partners that we work with on day-to-day, month-to-month, and we actually put account managers on them because they're so big. From the school district, I mean, Texas, God love you. You guys, school districts are like states or cities.
Yes.
When we do a school district in New Jersey, you don't do a school district. You might get a high school. You might not even get all the schools in the same town, but, and it's, 100, maybe 200 cameras. When you do a school district like Frisco School District or Aldine School District, you're talking thousands of cameras, thousands. So, when Luke and Nate and the team down in Texas win a school district, I mean, we know this is a huge project. So K through 12, and they start and they go for, 3-5 years. And by the time they're done, they start again. So if you do your job right, that's an annuity with the school districts. So we see a lot of business on K through 12. Now, we continue to see that because a lot of schools are closed and they're taking their construction money or their grant or federal money or state money that's been referended or bonded, and they're using it. We did see a huge impact on COVID on the retail sector. No doubt that retail slowed up, stopped opening stores, obviously, probably closing stores. Now we're seeing a resurgence with AI. So we introduced the AI cameras in June, and they've been tremendously successful where people can track, at the edge, they have, red shirt, blue pants, guy with a hat on, things like that. And then the nice thing about the AI cameras, you add firmware, you don't like buy a new camera. And now you can do social distancing 6 foot away. You can enunciate if it's not. You can do mask or no mask. You can do occupancy counting, how many people come into a building, and put that instead of having a guy clicking at the front door, something crazy. So all those COVID apps are now in those AI cameras, and then things like that. So now retail, schools, office buildings, a lot of commercial opportunities, stadiums, they're all picking up on these AI COVID apps and all these things that they're looking for to identify and help them go through this pandemic a bit. So it's not so much a vertically based. We are seeing the same kind of customers rebound. Now the one vertical that exploded and still is healthcare. No doubt that our healthcare business is going crazy right now, and rightfully so. We understand that. But for some reason, healthcare is not affected at all. In fact, it's being funded a lot more, and you're seeing that come out now. And the dealers and the distributors that are focused on healthcare are probably 100% growth right now. They're probably doubling their business this whole year, where a lot of people are probably below 2019, I would gather.
It's great to hear that. And to Tom's point about, kind of the K through 12 higher ed education vertical, especially here in Texas, man, you got over 1,000 school districts here in Texas. And when I first joined ADVision, and I told them, hey, I'm from Dallas. Texas is going to be education is going to be a hot market for me in Texas. And they're like, Taylor, what are you talking about? Education? We don't see a need for that. And I shit you not, my first deal was with a Santa Fe ISD down in Houston. I said, look, small school district, they had a massive shooting. They just bought our software 30 days when I first joined the company. So it's like, I mean, guys, some of these school districts, to Tom's point, 60, 70, 80, 100 plus schools in just about one single district. So it's definitely a hot market, which I know Luke is definitely having a heyday with all these ISDs. Him and I work off one another. But and then also, retail, man, retail's been shot since COVID-19, but I can see why that's a big vertical for you guys. And obviously, healthcare, healthcare is probably getting funding from the CARES Act. There's a lot of, government funds being kind of poured into that vertical, which definitely helps out, companies like us, because we can definitely help out during this time. So speaking of COVID-19, you kind of highlighted this already, here at AnyVision, retail, we knew retail was going to be shot pretty much till 2021. So we've kind of had to shift our focus to different parts of the industry. But what's business been like for you guys, man? I know it's probably been fluctuated here and there, but ever since healthcare kind of picked up, I'm sure it's kind of increased. But maybe talk about business for a second with COVID. How's that been?
So, we've been quite fortunate the time I've been here over the 8 years. 1 year, we only had probably about 12% growth, and that happened to be 2016 when we changed our name from Samsung to Hanwha. I think most companies would be elated at 12% growth over year to year in this industry. The industry video is probably growing about 4 to 6 overall in North America, year in and year out. If you look at the IHS reports, and it's a guideline, it's not an exact science by any means, not like a car industry. But we've been lucky enough to hit 30, 40, even up to 65% growth in some years. And it's almost expected from this company for the investments we're putting in on the R&D side, on the hiring side, from that standpoint. I mean, when I got here, we had 6 salespeople. We're over, 60 and another 80 on our rep firm. So, we've invested heavily on our personnel. But, from that standpoint, I think, we're seeing a great growth even this year. So March, up until March, we were ecstatic, 20, 30% growth. April, obviously, probably mid-April to mid-May, there was a lot of things that dropped down, but we only saw a 6% decrease. And now we're seeing, great numbers again come back. Month in, month out, our growth has increased every month, and we're running about 12% over last year already, and we expect September right now is phenomenal. It's way over last year's numbers, and we still have a good 5-7 days left. So we expect Q4 to be the same. We see a lot of retail coming back. We see banking coming back. They're putting in some significant orders, companies like that. And, people are doing business. I think a lot of people are still at home. A lot of people are working from their houses. But there are projects being done, and I think that's going to continue to grow.
Yeah, I think it speaks volumes about any kind of company kind of going through this kind of adversity that we're all experiencing. The one thing my dad always told me when I first joined the industry is, Taylor, security is never going to go away. It's always going to be used in some form or fashion, whether the economy's whether the economy's horrible, whether the whole world is freaking out right now. I mean, it doesn't really matter. There's always some form of security that's going to happen. And it's really good and reassuring to hear you guys actually hire people during this time and actually increase your sales from last year. And even though it's a slight margin increase, it still counts, right? So I definitely appreciate that. And my next question, Tom, this question, man, I've gone back and forth about with all different kinds of manufacturers. I've got my own certain belief about this technology, but you guys as a leading camera manufacturer in the market probably get this question, 1,000 times a day with your sales team. Thermal cameras, favor cameras. What are your thoughts on this type of technology, man? Because I've got my own argument to this here in Texas when it's 100 degrees outside. Everyone's got an elevated temperature. How are we combating for that? But I'm sure in your part of the world, we can use it more as a layer. But what are you seeing with this piece of technology, man? What's kind of been your response and I guess y'all's focus with thermal?
It's funny you say that because, the company and maybe my opinion might differ. The company is developing, thermal camera line. We've had thermal camera lines for about 2 years now. We treat them sensitive because they are under export control. And you have to do some documentation to sell them correctly. And I know other companies did not at one point and been fined for it. But, that leads into we're expanding our thermal line because there's a demand for it. But now there's a demand for this, temperature detection camera. Obviously we're getting asked for it. So if the demand is there from a global standpoint, which it is, we'll develop it. But we want to make sure that we develop it the right way and it is of the best quality. And that's really what we hang our name on, is the quality of our products. We have 5-year warranty on everything. So we want to make sure that when we do a camera, it does what it's delivered to do. And I think that's the challenge. I think a lot of we see in the industry, and it's not just thermal, we see specs that are wrong. You can compare camera to camera and you look at the spec, one says one thing. So there's no standards in our industry, unfortunately. And that's one thing, it's unfortunate, we haven't had, some type of standard that we can abide by, and every manufacturer must do it. But when they test their cameras with a certain lumen and things like that, they just don't do it. So I think product gets out there way too quick that isn't developed from AI. Analytics took a beating when it first came out. It's still taking a beating. AI, some cameras I'm sure aren't producing, what they should be doing. And then we've seen the reports on temperature cameras that they just haven't performed. You stand in the sun for 5 minutes outside a restaurant, you're not allowed to go in. You got to go stand in the shade before you can come into the, door. So how accurate is that? And what are you trying to do to it? We will introduce a temperature camera. It will be released probably in Q4. I don't expect it to be, oh my God, we've doubled sales. It's not. It's a niche product. It's a product very similar to, a height strip camera or an ATM camera. It'll be part of a market that is required, or asked for. But for the most part, we're hoping that it can be accurate enough that it makes a difference for people that are using it. I believe, my personal opinion, I go to a barber now. I go to, if I walk into a doctor's office right now, what do? They take your $50, $60 temperature reading. They have a nurse or they have someone working at the, reception for the barber, and they check your temperature. You're good to go. So you're going to spend $50, have a person do it, versus a couple $1,000s on a temperature camera that's unmanned. Now, I'm sure there's locations, maybe office buildings in New York City or something like that, that they think it's necessary and they'll implement it. But to think that you're going to put one at every retail store, or like a Dollar Tree store, or a Nordstrom or something like that, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think the market can expect a $1,000 camera, multiple $1,000 camera, to be sold in those applications. So I think they won't do that. So I believe I would rather, again, I always talk to our R&D teams about this. If your father taught you anything about business, everything can be aligned on an 80-20 rule. 20% of your sales force is going to bring in 80% of your business. 20% of your dealers are going to bring in 80% of your business. 20% of your product is going to bring 80% of your business. So if you look at that, is thermal, temperature detection camera going to be one of those top 20%? No, it's not. So I would rather, not that I'm saying don't develop it, and I don't have a choice, because globally they're going to decide, what's the most important to develop. But we really focus our company, and we have about at least 40% of the sales over, in Hanwha right now in North America. And so we do have a lot of say. And we tell them to really focus on WiseNet 7, new PTZs, new multi-sensors, new, things that are going to sell day in and day out on almost every vertical or every opportunity. And I think that's what's critical of our success, is that we keep our lane and we focus on what we do best. And we spread it out for niche products. We make certain banking products. We make PVM products for retail. We make explosion proof for oil and gas. We've done a great job working with a company right near you, Spectrum, that makes our housings now. So again, it's a needed thing to go into those markets. We're doing stainless steel for companies like Tyson and that they need, because they blow that bacteria and they destroy any type of camera that's not stainless steel. fine, but it's never going to be something that we focus on. It'll be something that I think will come out with a good quality temperature control camera that is as accurate as anything out in the market. But it won't be our focus, constantly. It'll be a product that we need for the demand only.
I really like Tom's answer there, guys, because again, this podcast is all about nothing but the truth. And when it comes to any kind of new feature set, any kind of new solution, a lot of manufacturers' reputations are on the line. And when it came to thermal and fever detection, there's a lot of manufacturers, and I think Tom will agree with this, there's a lot of manufacturers that came out with a fever solution too soon, too early, wasn't vetted, nothing, wasn't proven. And all they did was, let's get a money grabber, was what Chris Stanifor called it from ALC. Is I think fever right now is just a money grabber because people want to develop the solution just to get a quick dollar, quick buck. But really, when it comes to this kind of solution, it needs to be done by the right manufacturer. When I say right manufacturer, a manufacturer that has the track record in the industry of proving quality, optimal solutions for a longevity of time. Hanwha fits that bill. And when it comes to Q4, I'm excited to see what they come out with. But again, it has to come from the right people that stay in their lane. And Tom mentioned that, which is definitely my mentality here in the industry is, we have to have the manufacturers that stay in their lane, only what they specialize in. Because when you get out of your swim lane, things start to get challenging. Things start to get, misconstrued, things, product-wise, feature-wise. So I love to hear that. I love to hear the knowledge and expertise. I'm excited to see what you guys come out with, and I definitely appreciate your answer there, Tom. So let's talk about the next couple months or next couple years with Hanwha. What can end users and your dealers expect from you guys in the next coming months?
So, ultimate goal is to be number one in the industry, in the video world. I mean, that has been our goal since I've come on board, and that has been my challenge to bring this company up to $500 million. And now our strategy is moving up to $1 billion, sales organization. So, we have a significant growth plan set up for the next 5 years. We have it already developed out. That will change. We'll shift left and right when we need to. But the next things that are coming up in the next couple months are, all our WiseNet 7 products will be coming out that will enhance our, offering from multi-sensors to multiple head cameras and, new PTZ models that are going to be unique and new to the market, 3-channel multi-sensors, things like that, the dual cameras that have been very successful. But more importantly, we're seeing a change in the marketplace. And I saw this, not just me, but the market, as you mentioned, analog to IP. And again, I was there, I was there watching, analog, and everyone saying, oh, it's going away, IP's taking over. And it just didn't. Why? Because it was VGA. It was VGA quality, and everyone's like, when I plug in an analog camera, I see it on a monitor. If I plug in an IP camera, it's still black. And the installers want nothing to do with it because you go and add a MAC address and this and that, and you're like, what? I'm not doing that. We couldn't get them off of twist-on connectors, for God's sakes, and you wanted to go program a camera? It wasn't going to happen. And to this day, they're still selling analog cameras at a certain level of our Hikvision and Dahua did a great job, and we followed in on high-definition analog cameras, and we're selling a lot of them. Believe it or not, we're continuing because the low-cost replacement market is still there. More importantly, IP didn't really take off until companies like Aricon, IQ Envision, Vivotech, companies came out with a megapixel camera. They were the first to really hit at 720p and 1080p. Axis kind of did a great job of bringing the market into IP because they had the breadth and they did a great job of quality and what they were doing. But technology-wise, those companies were the first, and that really pushed the market into IP. Where am I going with this? We've seen another phenomenon happen in our market, COVID. COVID actually is changing the mindset of the security people that are buying products. They are now always, and again, I'll say it, cloud. Cloud has been around for what, 5-10 years? And everyone's, everything's going to cloud, everything's not going to be on-premise and all that. What have we seen? It hasn't happened at all. You have cloud companies coming up and dying. And you're saying, why isn't people going to cloud? Guess what? COVID is going to push everyone to change the way they do business with security and really move over from on-premise to off-premise. And you're seeing that now, and it's ripe. It's ripe. It's starting to happen more and more, but COVID is pushing it. So you have every IT director, every operations guy saying, I don't need one, they're scaling back their business, their locations, their real estate and everything like that. How do we save on, putting NVRs on the cloud or something like that and get rid of the air conditioning, the location, the space, and the power requirement? Boom. So that's happening. So what we'll see is Hanwha will move offerings. Not only will we have an on-premise system, but we'll have a cloud system available in the next 3 to 6 months. So that's exciting for us. Probably the most innovative thing is we will have WiseNet 7 cameras that will have SSDs on them. Again, a limitation of the cloud is every camera has a micro SSD, which means it's writable, a temporary drive that what happens? It fails. It fails. It's predicted to fail after so many writes. So and I know that who wants a camera out there that the storage is going to fail eventually? You don't want that. So putting an SSD, a solid state device, on a camera, which we're releasing, and that will be, I think, the next thing. And I said this back at Milestones MIPS, probably about 6-7 years ago. I said, eventually the NVR will die. The NVR will go away because the cameras will have so much power and everything moves that way, just like your computer is now your phone. We had these giant mainframes, and now everyone has more power in their phone. So what's going to happen in our cameras? We're going to have more power in the cameras. And that, with the SSD there, you're going to be able to put applications, more AI, and then, put everything recorded there, show a thumbnail on the cloud, and say, oh, I want to look at that video. Well, it's going to call it up from the camera. All right. So you don't have to store on the cloud and spend a lot of money on storage if you have an SSD camera. So that's what's going to change. COVID is making us change change the market's mindset right now to go to cloud more. And we're being prepared to have that with SSD cameras and a cloud solution. So that's pretty exciting because we haven't had that yet at Hanwha.
That is exciting, man. I'm really excited to see it happen because that's going to be a game changer as soon as you guys release that. And he's just to Tom's point, COVID has definitely, had its fluctuation here in the industry, some bad technology, some good technologies. But what Tom just mentioned is something that's very exciting. And it's going to push the cloud from 5-10 years ago when we first introduced it to now. It's going to be optimal everyday use. You're going to see it more readily used in the industry. And who knows, Tom, a year or two from now, who knows what we'll be talking about here in the industry, something else, something different. I mean, this world constantly evolves. It constantly changes for whatever reason, and it's good to hear that because I love to hear the new enhancements, new involvements of what you guys are doing at Hanwha. I think it's very special. And it's why you guys set the tone too in the industry too. So which is why your reputation is so high, because people look up to, hey, what is Hanwha saying? What are they doing? What are the customizations? What are the feature sets? We have to set this reputation and this mentality industry when it comes to trusted advisors like Tom and his team at Hanwha. So, my last and final question, Tom, it's a question I ask all my manufacturers, and you've already pretty much answered this question, but if you had to put Hanwha in a 60-second pitch, I'm sure your sales guys would love to hear this. They're like, okay, we get to hear big man, big boss now sell our products. So let's 60 seconds on the clock. Let's talk about Hanwha. Why should a dealer or even an end user purchase Hanwha? Let's hear it.
Hanwha is a South Korean company that I think brings innovation to the marketplace, and we're one of the leaders in the marketplace on camera and full solutions in the video market. The other thing that is critical to our success has been the quality of our products. People buy our products and they continue to buy our products because it has satisfied their needs. It hasn't been over-delivered. It is exactly what we say it is, which is usually the best product that they've seen in the marketplace. And I stake my own reputation on that, and I think all of our sales guys do the same. We teach our sales guys to be educators in the market. Don't go out there and just sell, but educate the market on what YStream is and ZipStream is and different technologies that are similar, smart codecs, and wide dynamic range. Explain it to the customer so they understand and not be confused by people coming in there trying to sell what they have only, but understand the market. And, chips will fall where they fall. If you're good, if you show your products, that's what's important. So the integrity and being educators in the market is how we go about our business. And that whole messaging is very important to the market because I've seen a lack of standards in our industry, and that's what we bring to the party. And then finally, our support. We have been something that we didn't do well when I first got here, and it's one of the things we pride ourselves on is the support of our products. So, we have online chatting, we have tech support constantly, whether it's verbal, email, things like that, 5-year warranty that we boast, that we give for free. We don't charge for any extra years and things like that. So customer wants to hear that. People want to hear that when they buy product, that the company that they're buying it from will be there and support them, so they're making these very tough decisions, and sometimes they stake their job on it, and they want to make sure that they're somebody's behind them to support them.
Boom. Love to hear it, man. And just like JC Powell says from Boone Edom, he says, Taylor, people buy from people and people buy from people who they trust. And the Hanwha is that company because just to Tom's point, it is our job in the industry to be consultants and advisors when it comes to the right technology and the right product line to that end user specific use case. So, Tom, if people want to get more information about the company, what's the contact info, phone number, email, website information? What's that look like?
Websites, hanwhasecurity.com. We have great landing pages to look at everything we've talked about today. The phone number is 877-213-1222. And I'm on LinkedIn. Here's my cell, 908-230-3942. You can call me and I'll direct you to anybody you need.
All right, guys, you heard it first. Go blow Tom up on LinkedIn, man. He just gave out his personal information. There we go. All right, so sweet. Appreciate the time, Tom. And for those that have questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to email me at info@securityvip.net. Once again, that's info@securityvip.net. You can watch this episode of Tom and I on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe to us on our YouTube channel. Follow us on LinkedIn for all the recent announcements about our VIP guests. And when you're on the road, make sure to listen to us on Spotify.com. Thank you, Tom, for the time, brother, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Thank you. I appreciate it.